Welcome back, Scratch Programmers. This is Chris. We're going to continue now with our spaceship adventure here, where our ship flies around. It's got some turbo flames coming out of it, but it doesn't really interact with the environment very well. So, if we're going to make this into a game, we need to be able to interact a little bit. We need to avoid this rock. A rock is going to be our enemy right now. Kind of big. Let's shrink this guy down a little bit. Maybe we're a little small now. Makes you look a little more spunky. All right. So right now when we run into the rock, nothing happens. How do we do collision detection? Over here in our loop, we've been checking to see if the key's pressed, if the key's pressed, if the key's pressed. Those are 3 different things we're checking for. So now we also have to check if we are touching the rock. So we have touching mouse pointer here. We drop that little drop down, activate that. We can see if we're touching the edge and if we're touching rocks. So we want to see if we're touching rocks. Let's do something. So bring touching rocks over. Bring our if statement over. So first we check to see if the space is pressed, then if the left arrow, then if the right arrow is pressed, then if we're touching the rocks. And if we're touching the rocks, boom, we have to blow up, right? So, first thing we do when we blow up, well, should we do a new costume? A blown up costume? I don't know, let's see. So here we could take our costume of our current ship, right? And we added flames to it. Let me stop this so that we can see our different costumes. Because when it was running, it was keep on going through this loop. And since we don't have the space key pressed, it was always going back to the spaceship A costume. So it was switching that costume on me all the time. Let's copy this. And we can name it Spaceship. Boom, right? So now we got to draw flames and everything coming out of our spaceship all crashed up. Again, I'm not a very good artist, but we can do, let's see, what can we do? Big orange, but we want to fill it. So if I do something, you can always use these buttons up here to undo and redo. If I click the circle thing, I want a filled circle. And we'll just do explosions like that. That doesn't really look like an explosion. How are we going to draw fire? We could draw flames like we drew, but just going all over the place. Okay, let's try that. So those were just with our pencil. Draw a really thick line of fire bursting out of it. Right, we'll just say heat, and then we'll change our color to red, and add some more, where now it's not just coming out of the back of our spaceship, but it's coming out of everywhere. And if you look over on the screen over here, yeah, that mess is kind of looking a little like an explosion happened to our ship, right? All right. So that's our explosion. This is our ship. We go back to our scripts here. If we're touching the rocks, then let's switch our costume to Spaceship Boom. We'll wait 1 second. And then we sort of have to hide it, right? We say, oh, we're hit. And so wherever we add a hide, we always have to remember to add a show somewhere. So in the beginning of the game, we want to make sure we're showing ourselves. Let's see if that works. Boom! And then it disappears. That looks okay. The ship is there. Where's the rock? Boom! Then we're done. Okay. So now our spaceship is vulnerable. Well, let's make it so our spaceship can do something to the rocks. And generally, we can either give our spaceship a shield, or we can shoot lasers, or we can shoot some sorts of bullets. And I like the bullets because that teaches us the most about programming. So let's shoot some bullets. So let's add a new sprite for our bullets. So, you know, we're in space. When we'll shoot bullets, we'll shoot baseballs. SpaceBalls, BaseBalls, they kind of sound similar. All right, let's shrink that down a little bit so that it looks like something about the size that our spaceship would shoot. That's still a little bit big. Let's shoot big spaceballs. Okay, so what our spaceball is going to do when a green flag is clicked, it's going to hide itself. Right? Because when the game starts, yep, there we go. Boom. Wow, that rock's really coming after us. So the space ball is hidden. And what we want to do is when we fire, we want to make it visible where our spaceship is and then have it shooting in the direction we're going. And right now, I'd like to fire using the space bar, but our space bar is making us move forward. So let's see if we can reclaim the space bar. Instead of the space key being pressed, let's use the up arrow. Now on your keyboard, the up arrow will make you go forward, and left and right, forward, up. That makes sense. All right, so now we can have the space bar make it so that our baseball comes out. And let's go with this same, let's try the same forever loop. So forever, we're going to check. Well, we don't really need to do this. Remember, so we were trying two different ways. Or I wanted to show you a way of always checking here versus event driven, which was when the space key is pressed. Let's try that one. So when the space key is pressed, we are going to, as the baseball, appear where the spaceship is. So that means we need to go to X and Y. So let's go to, but what X and Y do we want to go to? Over in sensing, remember here we get this X position of baseball. And there the X position is a drop down where we can change things, and baseball's position too. So we can choose spaceship. So we want to go to the X of the spaceship, and we want to go to the Y location of the spaceship. Let me blow this up again for you guys so it's easier to see. X position, Y position of the baseball. Not of the baseball, of the spaceship. So now let's see. We're going to go around. We got smashed. Space key is pressed, but the baseball stays hidden. So let's make sure that we show ourselves then. And there, the baseball appears and it follows the spaceship. But it's not really shooting a bullet. That's just planting mines. Right? All right. So now we need to make the baseball move. So we could move in a loop. Right? So we're going to move, repeat until, I don't know what, until we're touching the edge. Until touching the edge. And now it always goes to the edge and then it sticks there. So we got to hide when we get to the edge again. So now it looks like we're shooting it well, except it's always going the wrong direction. Or it's going the right direction. We're facing that way, but if we're facing any other direction, it still always goes left. How do we fix that? When the space key is pressed, we go to the spaceship's location, and then we also need to point in a direction or towards something. Well, we want to point in a direction probably, and that direction is the same direction as the spaceship. So this just says 90, negative 90, 0, 180. But let's go back to our sensing buddy over here. I had this drop down. And let's look in there. We have X, Y position. We have direction. So we can get the direction of baseball. No, we don't care about the direction of the baseball. We care about the direction of the spaceship. So that is the direction the spaceship is pointing in. We're going to point in the same direction. Then let's show ourselves. Then let's move 10 steps at a time till we're touching the edge. And now it's pointed in the direction of our spaceship. Same direction of our spaceship. Not towards the spaceship, but in the same direction our spaceship's pointing. All right, but now our rock isn't responding to the baseball touching it, is it? Oh, like our ship was. All right, so let's go back to our rocks. And our rocks had all this other code of floating around. Remember that? Floating up, floating down. Let me click. So our rocks now also need to, as they're floating around, they need to see if they're hitting the baseball or touching the baseball, right? Or we can make it where the baseball says, hey, if I'm touching a rock, something's going to happen. All right. Let's try. We can do either way. Let's try the baseball. So it does that. It moves 10 steps. And we'll say if it is touching the rock, let's tell the message. Let's send a message to the rock. Hey, you've been blown up. Because it's a super SpaceBall BaseBall. So if, sense that we're touching the rocks. So this thing, as it moves across the screen to the edges, it's going to see, hey, am I touching a rock? And if I am, we're going to broadcast a message. And we're going to broadcast the message. Well, let's make a new message. Rocks. Boom. Okay. Maybe we should make it more descriptive. We'll leave it rocks boom. You can make it something. We should name our variables more descriptively and more grammatically. But for now, rocks boom is good enough. So when our rocks over here, they have all this code for floating down, floating up, and always choosing whether they float down or float up and waiting a little while. And we need to add a little bit of code of when I receive rocks boom. What's going to happen? Well, should we make the same little explosion for rocks? Let's duplicate it. And then maybe rocks don't blow up. Well, they're not going to explode in fire, but they might go into all these little pieces. And how can we pull it into little pieces? Not really sure I know how to. Let's select our rocks. We can shrink it. Rotate it a little bit. And can we copy and paste that? I'm trying to think. Let's make a lot of little rocks. So when we shrink that rock, and now I want to duplicate it. Oh, wow, look at that little rock. I guess we can see if we can add rocks again. Things, rocks. All right, so we added that one. We take this one, we shrink it a little bit. And over here, we should stop it so that it's not. So it's not too distracting. So we angle it off. Maybe we'll add another rock. What's going on with my changes? Hopefully you don't have this coming up for you, but under things, I go down and select my rocks again. Shrink it. Twist it around. Maybe put a little fire in there. Just to make it like Hollywood. Oh, that line's a little thick. Let's undo that. Make our line a little thinner. Just some good little squiggles through it. And so now, that's our blown up state. So we go back to our scripts. When I receive rock boom, we need to switch our costumes. So costumes over in looks, and we switch costumes to rocks. Call that rocks boom too. Rocks boom as well. We switch our costume to rocks boom. Wait a little bit, I guess, right? Maybe we don't need to wait a whole second. Let's wait half a second. And then we'll hide ourselves. And so that means each time that we come through this loop, well, let's try it out. Oh, we start off as rocks boom. That's not right. So what I was trying to say is each time we come through this loop, we need to make sure that we switch to the costume of rocks. And remember, every time we do a hide, we need to do a show somewhere. We need to figure out where we're going to show ourselves. So we're going to show ourselves as a rock. We can go through this. We float up and down. And then sometimes we shoot, get shot, and turn into rocks boom. So spaceships flying around. There, maybe even that's too long. Maybe we just need to wait a quarter of a second, 0.25 seconds. My ship is a little stuck. We still need a score. So for data, we make a variable. We call it score for all the sprites. And when do we reset the score to 0? Whenever the green flag is clicked. When do we increment the score by 1? Whenever the rocks go boom. So here, as we fly around, we see our score is 0. We're shooting. We're avoiding the rocks. Ha ha ho! I blew them up, but they also blew me up. And so that was it. We kind of need a game over state, right? To let them know that they're done. So let's see. We have our spaceship flying around. It blew the rock up. Got 2 points. And then I blew up. And then now we should be in this scene where the game is over. But we can still have rocks floating around and leave the score there. So let's go to the spaceship. It's got 4 ships already. Let's make a new costume. And we're going to make a new one that we're just going to draw ourselves. And this one's going to be called Game Over. And let's just use text for this. And yellow text is probably good for writing in space. Game Over. That's a little hard for us to see, but it's going to be on this black text, so it should be easier. Let's move that right to the center. And now we go over here. We look through all this. We wait and then we hide. And what we really want to do is not hide. We really want to switch to that costume and say our game is over. Right? But then we don't want to allow them to draw anything. Or hiding is fine. Let's get rid of this costume here. Since we don't want to use it, we shouldn't use it as a way to do the game over. Let's make the stage have a game over status. Let's duplicate that. In here, we'll add the text. That way you can see what the text looks like. And move that around somewhere there. And so we really want to change our background from stars to game over. Okay. So here, for our background, when the green flag is clicked, we do our looks and we switch our backdrop to the stars. When we hear some event of game over, when I receive, not rocks boom, but a new message of game over, then we switch our backdrop to game over. What does it say? And wait. Yeah, we don't need to wait. We can just switch our backdrop to game over. And now our spaceship is the one that when it switches a costume, spaceship, boom, waits a second and hides, then we want to send that message, broadcast game over. Uh-oh. Why are we in our good proper costume? So when we start, we need to switch our costume. Before we show ourselves, switch our costume to, none of those seems right. What costume do I have? Oh, I renamed this one Game Over. This one should be just called Spaceship. So start off in Spaceship. Switch to costumes, Spaceship. And then we never switch to costume. Oh, we do have to switch to costume, Spaceship. Boom. So here we fly around. We shoot rocks. The score is 0. We got 1. We're waiting for more rocks. Where are you, rocks? We crash into them. We blow up. And now it says game over. All right, so I got a little confused there, but straighten it out. The background is where we do the state of the application, whether we are just in stars or in game over. The rocks learned how to respond to a message about when they needed to blow up, and they also started to maintain the score for us. Our spaceship, we changed the key about what would be making it move forward. And then we gave it the ability to shoot out some baseballs and also check if it's touching rocks in itself. It blows up and then tells everyone else the game is over. And the baseball came out started where the spaceship was, pointed in the direction of the spaceship, showed itself, moved towards the edge of the screen because that's how far we had to go. And then also, if it touched the rocks, it told the rocks, hey, you guys need to blow up. And then it hides itself at the end. Hopefully you guys got that all. If you need any trouble, go back, rewind, watch it again, and play this little game. It's kind of fun. And you can imagine ways that you can make it a little harder, increase the speed of the rocks, right? Make more rocks come out. Make rocks come out faster as you shoot more rocks. So part of the score. And we can play around with that too going on. Thank you very much. Have fun.